Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to another Facebook Live video on sugar. Today I'm going to be talking about, again, sugar, but also how it impacts weight loss and weight gain, and try and dispel a few myths and educate about how food, sugar, and weight loss all come together, and how eating a diet high in sugar is going to mean that it's going to make it very, very difficult to lose weight. Um, I hope everyone's enjoyed the weight loss, the sugar series so far, and got a lot out of the videos. If you're watching along today, feel free to say hello in the comment section, or post a question as well. The goal of today is for me to help everyone identify some myths in the nutrition and weight loss world, and maybe identify some things that you might have been told or advised about before that haven't worked, and maybe why they don't work. I'm going to try and bring you some of the science that I've learned in my reading about all of this, and some strategies towards weight loss that, if that's your goal, to help you with that. So there's a lot to cover for today, so I'm just going to get straight into it. So one of the things that you might have heard of when trying to lose weight or advised to lose weight is that a calorie is just a calorie, and a lot of the big food companies say this just to try and sell foods, but it doesn't matter what you eat. It's how many calories you consume. That's the big thing when it comes to weight loss, and it's not quite true. So have a think about this. The way that the calories and the energy that we bring in is processed, as we've seen, is quite different. So the way that carbohydrates and fats, for example, are processed when we eat food is very, very differently. Even different sugars, the way that they're processed, glucose and fructose, is very, very different as well. So therefore, a calorie of fats is not going to be the same as a calorie of sugars. For example, you can have 500 calories worth of soft drink and 500 calories worth of a steak. But we know that the way that your body processes each of those different foods and drinks is going to be completely different. Have a think about, say you've just had a 500 gram juice or a 500 calorie steak. What's going to make you feel more full afterwards? I think it's going to be the protein heavy meat meal, not the highly sugared, highly refined soft drink. Which one is going to leave you feeling more full is critical to how your body processes the foods, and how your, I guess, drive to eat more is impacted as well. Have you ever noticed that you can, after a huge meal, you're feeling completely full, couldn't possibly eat anything else, but I'll have some ice cream for dessert afterwards. But you wouldn't be reaching for an extra steak or an extra pork chop or something like that, but you can still consume foods that are high in sugar and highly refined. So calorie isn't just a calorie, and the chemical composition and macronutrient content of the food absolutely does matter. The calories don't count, the effects of the food are what counts. So what you eat and when you eat is critically important. And you can watch any of the previous videos that we've done on sugar as to how this impacts you and your physiology in terms of your hormones, leptin, insulin, and others as well. Getting more energy essentially from processed sugar will lead you to be more hungry, make you want to eat more, keep insulin levels high, and therefore encourage the storage of energy in the form of glycogen, stored sugar, and fat, and prevent fat from being burned for energy. Actually, insulin will actually lock your fat stores up so that you can't use them for energy. So calorie, unfortunately, not just a calorie. Very much depends on what the type of food you're eating is. The next myth or thing that you might have been told when trying to lose weight is cut down on your portion sizes. So some things you might have heard before. Cutting down on the number of calories is going to help you lose weight. It's the only way. Or it's all about energy in versus energy out. All you need to do is just eat a bit less and exercise a bit more. And this is the approach that everyone, including myself, up until probably about 9 months ago, was giving to people, because that's the way that a lot of people are taught at university, and the way a lot of doctors are taught and what they know. But if it was that easy, why are we still in a situation where obesity, type 2 diabetes, and chronic health is getting worse and worse over the past 40 years? Because that advice has existed for a very long time. So here's why that approach of reduce your portion sizes and just eat less and exercise more doesn't work so well. So the first thing to know is that the body is not a closed system. So when it comes to energy in versus energy out, that works very well in physics, but it doesn't work very well for the human body because there are so many factors that are involved. The human body likes to maintain balance and homeostasis, like I've mentioned many, many times. And the body actually has an internal weight set point, and this is controlled by insulin. So the more insulin you've got, the higher your set weight. The more insulin, the more your body wants to bring in and store energy. So the higher that weight set point is, and the more insulin and sugar you're consuming, the higher and higher that set point is going to go, getting harder and harder to bring it back down as well. So therefore, if we're thinking about, just reducing the portion sizes, here's what happens. So say, for example, your normal diet is around 2,000 calories per day, and you want to reduce your portion sizes to bring that down to maybe 1,500 calories a day. So you're cutting it down by 25%. But the body likes balance. So if you reduce the amount of energy in to this point, and here's your energy out, the body is going to do everything it can to bring your energy expenditure down to match whatever energy you're bringing in as well. So therefore, the amount of energy expended just to power your organs, keep you warm, keep you satiated is going to be down as well. So as a result of this approach, you'll probably accomplish a couple of things. Yes, you'll probably see some weight loss in the short term, but unfortunately we know that it's not sustainable, and research shows this as well. It's not sustainable in the long term. You'll certainly be hungrier. You'll probably be thinking about food more often, because you just think about how difficult it is to, have what your normal serving size would be, and then just take away a quarter of that and try and eat the same amount. It's going to be very difficult. You're going to find that you're very hungry trying to do that, have that approach. And we know that the hormones involved, depending on what you're eating, are still going to mean that you're still hungry if you're eating lots of high sugar foods as well. You're probably going to be colder as well, because the energy used to heat your body has come down a little bit. So you're probably going to be colder a little bit more often as well. And you're probably going to be tired a bit more often because the energy supplied to your brain and your muscles is actually less, because it's brought it down to match the change in your energy intake coming in. So when it comes to reduced portion sizes, or simply just thinking about it as energy in versus energy out, unfortunately that approach doesn't work so well in the long term either. And that's why I think a lot of people come unstuck with a lot of weight loss plans that they try, or new diets that they try. Part of this equation, I guess, of energy in and energy out is the exercise side of things. And I think being an exercise physiologist, we should probably touch on that today. So you've probably heard, or you've probably thought, the best way to exercise, the best way to lose weight, I need to exercise to burn off that extra energy. And as we just showed from before, just because I showed before, if you bring the energy down on one side, it's going to come down on the other side. And if you bring it up on the other side, you're going to want to eat more on the other side as well. So remember, it's always trying to keep that balance. So exercising more is probably not the best approach either, but it's often people's first approach. They think, okay, I want to get in shape, I want to lose a bit of weight, I need to be exercising more. Now, don't get me wrong, exercise is fantastic for your health. And you should absolutely try and find ways to exercise to improve your health. There's absolutely no doubt that both strength training and aerobic exercise are fantastic for just about everything when it comes to your health. Mental health, metabolic health, cardiovascular health, your strength, everything. except for one thing, and that's weight loss. Exercise alone, so just exercising more by itself, changing nothing else in your lifestyle, has not shown to have significant long-term sustained weight loss in any population over any period of time. Think about the Biggest Loser, for example, and how many of those contestants end up back at their original starting weight when they've just been smashed with exercise for 6 weeks and cut the calories for 6 weeks. It just doesn't work. Exercise alone isn't going to see the results that you want. What it can do though, and having said that, it doesn't mean you shouldn't exercise. I absolutely 100% think everyone should exercise, but don't expect just exercise to help you lose a little bit of weight. It can certainly help. It can certainly help to maintain lean muscle mass, so your muscles and your bones. It can help to maintain that mass while you're losing fat mass to assist your overall health and assist with this healthy weight loss as well. So it definitely has a role to play in weight loss. Just don't expect that it's going to be the only factor involved. So when in conjunction with diet, as everything that I'm touching on, it's going to see much better results for you. But exercise alone, unfortunately, not so. So there's always one thing that I like to come back to, and I've heard quite a bit doing all the research that I have, and that's you can't outrun a bad diet, unfortunately. Cool. So another thing that you might have heard or been told is that you need to eat often throughout the day to prevent yourself from getting hungry. And small snacking throughout the day will keep the hunger at bay and help you lose weight, because this approach is going to help you, not pig out when it gets to dinner time or when it gets to the bigger meals. Oftentimes, unfortunately, those smaller snacks throughout the day might be high in sugar, maybe a muesli bar, pieces of fruit, things like that. But when you stop and have a think about how silly that actually sounds, to lose weight, we want you to eat more throughout the day. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? So eating more often throughout the day is actually going to make your blood glucose levels higher. It's going to make your insulin level higher throughout the day. Therefore, you're going to struggle to lose any weight because insulin's keeping it locked up and stored away. And you're probably going to gain weight because insulin's just promoting that extra fat gain. So I've come up with a couple of graphs here just to outline what happens throughout the day when you're eating really regularly. So if you're eating at these time points here throughout the day, we've got time of the day down the bottom, and then your blood glucose levels and therefore insulin on the y-axis here. What's going to happen is you'll see constant spikes in your insulin levels and blood glucose, and it's going to stay much more elevated than your baseline level. It's going to be much higher throughout the day, which is going to make it very hard to lose weight and probably more likely to gain weight as well. Okay, so this is the first graph, eating it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times throughout the day, which a lot of people have been told to do. So here's what happens when we eat less sugar, low carbohydrate, and we're eating at meals only. So only at 3 time points throughout the day, no snacks. We can see the baseline, and as we eat, yes, blood sugar levels and glucose are going to go up a little bit, but we see it come back down to a baseline very quickly and maintain at that baseline, which is going to mean there's less time to promote fat gain during that time, more likely to lose weight during that time as well. So absolutely what you eat and when you eat is critical, and eating more often throughout the day is absolutely not the best way to do that. So if you're going for this approach, so eating it less often throughout the day, you're probably thinking, well, won't I just be hungry all throughout the day? And the answer is probably yes, if you're still eating highly refined, processed, sugary foods at those meals. If, however, you're able to eat foods that promote satiety and don't promote hunger, so foods high in fat, like we talked about last week, or protein, you're much less likely to be hungry throughout the day. And this will happen pretty quickly as soon as you make the change as well. The other approach that is an option is fasting. So fasting in some form is absolutely a great option for weight loss, and has fantastic research and helped many people lose weight and keep it off. And I'm going to touch on that in a little bit more detail in just a moment as well. So the last thing that I think a lot of people that have tried dieting, tried weight loss, but haven't been too successful over the long term have come to the conclusion is that, I just don't have the drive. I just don't have the willpower to do this. I've been exercising each day and working really hard, eating less as well, but I'm not losing any weight. Or, I can't stick to a diet. I'm always hungry and I still want to eat more when I do this approach. Maybe I just don't have the willpower and drive to be able to do it. And I think for a lot of people, that attitude is a big possibility. And I'm doing everything I can. I'm doing what my doctor told me, but things just aren't working for me. So maybe it's time to consider that maybe the advice that you've been given isn't great. Eat less and exercise more, or eat more often during the day to keep the hunger at bay. Or maybe the food industry make foods that are more addictive and delicious so that you'll buy and therefore eat more and keep you coming back, and so they can make a lot of money. And supermarkets help. They promote this by putting the chocolate bars right next to the counter. It's as simple as that, and you've already bought something that's not great for you. So and these factors are in the environment that we're living in are very much against people being able to lose weight, and it's absolutely doesn't come down to people's willpower, but their body's physiology and their environment working against them, whether they like it or not. So you can be as determined as you've ever been before, but if you're still eating often and eating high sugar foods throughout the day, you're still going to be hungry. You're not going to lose weight, and it's going to be very hard to not see weight gain due to the roles of insulin, leptin, and other hormones that I've spoken about at length over the last couple of weeks as well. So I've spoken a lot about myths and what doesn't work, but you all probably want to know what does work. So we know it's not about cutting calories or exercising more. We know that it's not about energy in versus energy out and just expending more energy. And we know that now that it's not even really about how motivated you are to eat less and exercise more. It's all about how critically important your hormones are, and they are going to dictate your ability to lose or gain weight in the long term. Insulin, leptin, cortisol, and others like ghrelin, another hunger hormone called PPY, they're all incredibly important, and that is going to be the factor that determines whether you gain or lose weight as well, because they control the body's set weight point and how much weight you gain or lose. So any successful weight loss attempt needs to have a focus on measuring and checking your hormone levels as well. And this is something that you should definitely bring up with your doctor and talk about blood tests that can target these if it's something that you want to do. So what can you eat? What can you eat that's going to help you lose a bit of weight? So hopefully everything that I've said over the last 2 weeks has led you towards the idea that sugar is not so great for you, and certainly eating a lower sugar, lower carbohydrate diet, a diet that's also low in fats like trans fats and seed oils, which are extremely bad for the body and cause cellular damage. So think things like deep fried chips from the fish and chip place or something like that for this. But then eating foods that are high in fat like meat, cheese, nuts, avocado, eggs, they produce very little insulin response, and therefore they're not going to see you store that energy for later. High sugar keeps insulin high and promotes energy storage. So high insulin further causes insulin resistance, which I've spoken about at length the last couple of weeks. This becomes a vicious cycle. High insulin prevents leptin action, which is going to keep you feeling hungrier for longer. And we know that sugar causes a dopamine or addiction response in the brain, and that's going to lead you wanting more and more as well. So what you eat is critically important. The type of food you consume will dictate how your body, and more specifically your hormones, respond to it, and whether you gain or lose weight. So hopefully what I've been saying along the last couple of weeks is making a little bit of sense, and can help people identify that sugar and processed foods and carbohydrates are absolutely not what you should be eating. And a diet that's higher in healthy fats and protein and real food is what you should be eating. So what you're eating is super important, but when you're eating is also critically important as well. I'll bring you back to these two very nice graphs that I've drawn earlier as to when you're eating and how often you're eating that's important. But one thing I touched on before is the idea of fasting. Now, fasting is a practice that's as old as time, and it's been around for thousands and thousands of years. Many of you watching may fast for religious reasons and know that you can get through a day without having anything to eat and you will survive. It's been something that people thousands of years ago knew was a great practice, and there's many documented times where people have said that they feel like they've got more mental clarity and can function better when they've fasted for a little bit. So we know from history that it can be a good thing for us. So what is fasting? Well, it's periodically abstaining from eating anything for a period of time. So that period might be overnight, that period might be days, might be a little bit longer. But essentially what it is allowing is a period of time where our body isn't processing the food that we're consuming, but rather it then has the ability to start to use our stored energy sources, fat, for powering our body, basically. So when we allow ourselves to fast, and this doesn't have to be very long at all. So say, for example, you stop eating at 7 p.m. one night, and then you don't eat until 7 p.m. the next morning. Well, you've been fasting for 12 hours because you haven't had anything to eat. And if you were talking about slightly longer time periods, this is then going to allow insulin to be down because you're not bringing any food that's going to spike your blood glucose levels and therefore your insulin. So insulin's going to be down, not elevated, and therefore we start to see a couple of things happen. One, it's not going to promote fat storage of the energy that you're bringing in. And two, it's going to start utilizing that stored fat source as an energy source. So insulin is no longer then promoting fat storage and preventing fat loss when you've fasted for a given amount of time. And this is a huge topic, and it's going to work very differently for everyone. So I'm not going to go into what specifically works, how long you should be doing it or anything like that. But if you'd like more information, please let me know on that. So is it safe? That's probably the big question. And what downsides am I going to see if I try something like this? Well, yes, we know it is safe. And the body is exceptionally good at providing its own energy sources and keeping ourselves able to survive, basically. If you have excess fat stores and you're not eating, your body will start to use those fat stores for energy. That's literally the purpose of them. But this, unfortunately, takes a longer period of time, not just 6 hours or something like that. So another question that people might have is, am I going to be hungry after not eating for a long period of time? The other day I didn't have I skipped breakfast because I had to go to a meeting early, and I was absolutely starving in the mid-morning. So unfortunately, yes, you probably will be a little bit hungry to begin with, especially if you're so used to eating at certain time points. Your body will just expect a meal, and then when it doesn't have it, it's gonna promote that hunger response. But it's important to know that hunger comes in waves. So anyone that has fasted for religious reasons or other in the past will know that you might start feeling quite hungry for a little bit, but then you get distracted and then you realize, oh, I'm not hungry anymore at all. or you go for a walk and you're not hungry at all, or you have like a cup of tea or a coffee and you're not hungry anymore. So hunger very much comes in waves. It doesn't steadily build up and build up until it reaches this critical mass point. So that's really, really important to know as well. And we know that. And another question people have is, aren't I just going to be tired and lethargic when I'm fasting? And this doesn't make any sense either. From an evolution standpoint, if as a human species, the longer we got from our last meal, we became weaker and more tired and more slow, then the human race would have been died out a long, long time ago, because back thousands and thousands of years ago, when we didn't have ready access to food in our fridge, for example, but we had to hunt or collect our food. If you didn't eat for a day, you would have been toast after that, because you would have just been getting weaker and tireder, and the human race wouldn't have survived after that. So what actually happens after you start fasting for a prolonged period is your hormones kick into gear. So hormones like cortisol and growth hormones start to go up a little bit to keep us highly focused and promote our ability to go out and find food in the old days. Or just be focused on a task in current days. So, and that happens acutely as well. That's not a chronic build-up of cortisol that's going to cause stress, but it allows us, in the past, it has allowed us to survive. And these days, while that survival instinct isn't as necessary, it is going to keep us less hungry throughout the day. So, you might be interested in this. How can I start? Well, the first thing I would suggest is that you consult your doctor and ask for their advice on how to go about fasting and what might work well for you, especially if you're taking medication. I absolutely do not suggest to start fasting if you're taking medication, or changing when you're taking your medication to fit any fasting. Definitely consult with your doctor. And ask them about whether it might be the right thing for you. But I do believe that everyone can benefit from it. Start as a starting point, maybe just thinking about your eating windows each day, and maybe condensing that eating window if that's something that you wanted to try as well. All right, so lots and lots to cover today, and I very much understand that the topic of weight loss can't be covered in half an hour, and the topic of sugar can't be covered in half an hour either. But I really hope that people watching this that have tried these, what I've spoken about in the past, have found today somewhat beneficial, maybe enlightening and educational, and to understand that we've been given and giving some not great advice when it comes to weight loss for a long, long time, but that can change. And I'll be the first to admit that I've been guilty of this as well in the past, suggesting people just eat less and exercise more is the best way to lose weight. But, I know better now that it's just not going to work that way. And I hope what I've covered today has in some way helped a few of the people watching to be able to make some better decisions, and when you're eating and how your hormones are involved are the determining factors in your body's ability to lose weight, not how much calories you're consuming, how much you're exercising, or what your portion sizes are. So if you've got a weight loss story that you'd like to share, or something that's worked for you or hasn't worked for you, please comment below. I'd love to hear them. And I'm sure everyone else in the community would love to hear what's worked and what hasn't worked for you as well. It's going to be a very, very individual approach to weight loss, but the more in this community, I think, that we can get, people sharing their success stories and creating a really positive weight loss environment, that's going to be fantastic and really help a lot of people. So please share what's worked for you. I know in previous posts I've posted a couple of things about some reading resources, but I'll go back to these two books in particular. This one is about Obesity Code, about how fasting can benefit you and how the body gains and loses weight. And this one, Fat Chance, about sugar's impact on the body and the brain, and how it can sort of conspire against us, and how we're living in a very obesogenic environment that promotes obesity and weight gain. So some reading for anyone that's interested. I hope everyone's really enjoyed today's video and felt like they've got something out of it. I certainly enjoy bringing all this stuff to you as well. So again, please reach out. Please reach out with some more questions. I can see that there's a couple of questions in the comments for today, and I'm going to do my best to get to them as we start the next video as well. But enjoy the rest of your day. Think about what you're eating a little bit, and I hope to see you all next time. Bye.